Welcome back. In this video we will try to understand what is this keyword in JavaScript. So not to make the lengthy video, so I divided this thing into two parts. In the first video I'll be covering certain scenarios, and in the second video I'll be covering the remaining scenarios. In this video we will see what is the behavior of this keyword. So the behavior of this keyword in JavaScript will depend on where we are using it. So that's the very first point. And every line of code in JavaScript, if you observe, will be in only two situations. A line of code will be either in the global or in the local or in some function. So we may use the keyword this in the global, or we may use the keyword this in some other function, right? So we can use the keyword, this keyword in global, and we can also use the this keyword in inside function. So inside a function, right? And when we use this keyword in global, so just remember, whenever we use this keyword in global, so that this keyword will always be equal to the global object. That this keyword will always be equal to global object. That means, what is global object? So in case of Windows, the global object is window object. So you might have seen there is an object which is directly accessible to us, which is window. So when I print Windows, so you see we get a very big object where so many properties are there related to entire window, right? So many functions are there in it, and this is what window object is. Now if I use the keyword this, so when I print keyword this inside, and if you see the line number 4, is it present inside global or is it present inside some function? Of course it's present in global, right? And whenever we utilize the keyword this being in global context, so this keyword will point to what? The global object. And what is the global object in case of browser? So the window object is the global object. So if I save this, so you see we get the at line number 4 also the output is same as window. So that means whenever we use the keyword this being in the global, that this keyword will always be equal to the global object. So if you see, when I triple equal to this window, basically these two will point to the same reference. So we will get true over here for this. So you see, that means this and then window, both objects are pointing to the same heap memory address. Okay. And this is the scenario of using keyword this in the global context. And sometimes we use the keyword in a functional context also, right? So let me create a function for that and test some function. And just guys, remember one thing, so I'm not using arrow functions here, so don't use arrow functions here throughout this video. And the discussion of the keyword this depending on the arrow function will behave in some other way, and that thing I will discuss in a separate video. But for this video, for this two parts, just make sure you use the function keyword only, like the regular formatting functions only. Don't use the arrow functions. Okay. And then you see I just created a function test, and inside this function I'm going to log this keyword, right? And if you see line number 4, is it present in the global or is it present inside a function? So this line number 4 is present inside a function, and I told you that this keyword can be used only at two places. Not only this keyword, every line of code in JavaScript will be either in global or in some function, right? So this line of code is present inside a function. That means inside a function, the behavior of this keyword will depend on which object is calling this function. Are you confused about this? So basically, when we call, how do we call this function test? We call this way, right? So when we call this function, are we using any object in front of it? No, we are not using any object. But let me come back to this later. But let me show you one thing. I'll uncomment this and just an empty function. Okay, so I just created an empty function which is test, and then after that I'll just log the window object. So this line of code I'm using inside global, so this will be window. So or else let me type window, both are same. So when I print window, so you see when I expand it, so you see, let me name it to AAA like this, and if I expand it, so you see the function AAA is registered inside the window object, and I did not do something like window.AAA equal to this function. I just written the function just like this, and just because of writing like this, the function will be registered inside the global object. So that's why we see at the very top we get this function AAA, right? So that means the function, even though we are not defining it under a object, by default it will be fallen into the window object. So whenever we call the function AAA like this, so it is much like calling by using the object window, because the function AAA is registered inside the window object, right? So if we are calling like this without using any object, internally it will be called by using window.AAA. Okay, so both are same actually. If I save it, and you see as there is nothing inside, let me have some statement function, and then I'll just erase it, and you see if I execute it, so you see when I executed AAA, it got the block of code got executed, and it is much like, you know, calling by using the window object. So window.AAA, right? So you see both are same. So this way of invocation is exactly equal to this way of invocation, because whenever we declare a function inside global, that will directly be registered into the window object. Okay, now let us understand the context of this, when we use it inside a function. So when we use the keyword this inside a function, that this keyword will point to the object reference who made a call to that function. I know that this statement sounds little difficult, that when we use this keyword inside a function, that this keyword will have the reference of the object. Reference means the address. Okay, reference of the object who made a call to that function. Okay, let me show you one example. Let me create an object obj, or let me create a simple function by using function keyword. So function func, and then inside this I'm going to use something called this. Now the keyword this is used inside a function, right? That means whenever we use this keyword inside a function, that this keyword will point to the reference of the object who made a call to this function. So that means this will point to someone who makes a call to it, and let's see who is that someone. So when we make a call to the func, how do we make this way, and it is, I told you just now, it is exactly equal to window.func, because the function is registered inside the window object. So here if you see, who is making a call to this function func? The object window. So whoever is making a call to this function func, that object's reference will be captured in the form of this keyword inside that function. So that's what I written. So that this keyword, when we use it inside a function, that will point to the object who made a call to that function. So here the func function, who is making a call to it? The window object. So the window object reference will be there in the form of this keyword inside that function. So that's why when we save it, you see we get the window object at line number 8. You see at line number 8 we get the window object. Okay, now to be very clear, I'll take another example. Let me create an object just like this. It's going to have A, and it's going to have B, and it's going to have a function, and this is a func, just like this. And inside this function I'm going to log the keyword this, and you see line number 10 I'm using the keyword this. That means which case it belongs to. Does it belongs to the first case or the second case? It belongs to the second case, because we can write a line of code either in global or in a function. So this keyword here is utilized inside a function, right? That means second scenario. And when we use this keyword in second scenario, what will it do? That this keyword will point to the object reference who is making a call to this function. Now my question is, how do we execute this block of code or this function? So this function is there inside obj. So if you wanted to invoke that function, simply we invoke by using obj dot the key of that function, which is func. Now here if you see, the function func is executed or is called by the object obj, right? So the function func is called by the object obj. That means inside the function that this keyword will point to whom? the one who made a call to it. So who called this function? Obj here. So this keyword will point to obj. And what does obj contains? Obj is a object literal which contains all this, like it has a key a, it has a key b, it has a key func, which holds a function value. So let me save, and you see at line number 11 it will be printing the obj, and this is what the actual obj is. Okay, and let me make a little more complex. Now let's have func1 here, and then inside that func1 I'll be having another object, so which is x, which is 99, and then here I'll be having another y parameter which is 100, and then another key called func2, and it's going to hold a function, right? And inside this I'm going to print this keyword. Now you see, just focus on this func2 function. Just focus on this func2 function, and inside func2 we are using this keyword. That means this line number 17, will it come under which case it comes under? Will it come under the global, or will it come under the second case where we use this keyword inside a function? And it is very clear cut that we are using this keyword here inside a function, inside this func2 function, right? And when we use this keyword inside a function, what will be the behavior of it? It will be equivalent to or equal to the object reference who makes a call to this function. So now the question is, how do we call this function func2? So of course it is there inside object, so inside obj, func1, and then func2. So to make the call for this, we use obj dot func1 dot func2 and then call, right? So obj dot func1 is again another object, right? And in this another object we have 3 keys, and in that 3 keys we have a key func2, and which is our targeted function. And when I execute this function, basically this block of code gets executed, right? And now here my question is, like, who is calling this func2? Who is calling this func2? Is it the obj, or is it the func1, or is it something else? So I told you the object which is just in front of it is the one who is calling it. So here func2 is called by func1 and not by obj. That means func1 dot func2. Just focus on the last part. So here func1 is the one which is calling func2. That means inside func2 this keyword will point to the func1 object, eventually this object. Let me show you. So if I save, you see we get the func1 object here, which has x key, y key, and then func2, and it is not the obj key. So this is one scenario where we will understand it very clearly about this keyword behavior inside a function. And then coming to another scenario, so let me create another these are not scenarios. Like, if you understand the concept, then basically the point is that when we use this keyword inside global, that will be pointing to the global object. When we use this keyword inside a function, this keyword will point to the object who makes a call to it. That's it, very simple. Now let me take another case where you will fail to answer this, and then I create an object here, and in that object I'll be having, let's say, a with a value of 10, and then b with a value of 20, and then a func with a value of a function, right? And here inside this function I'm going to log the keyword this, and you see this logging keyword is present inside a function. That means the second scenario. So in the second scenario, when we use this keyword, this keyword will point to the object who makes a call to it. Now let me create a variable called let's say some x here, and that x, for this x I'm going to assign this entire value. I'm going to assign this entire value. So when I assign this entire value, how do I assign? Simply obj.func. So what is obj.func? It's a function. That means eventually I'm keeping this function over here. Okay, so the x is going to capture the reference of this function, right? And when I want, since x is a function, right? Let me show you. It's a function. So when I print x, so you see we get the function which is this function, right? So I can execute this function. So when I execute this function, can you guess what is the keyword this here inside? So you would definitely expect that this entire object would be this keyword, but no, because don't forget the basic principle that I told you. Like, whenever this keyword is used inside a function, that this keyword will point to the reference of the object who made a call to it. And here you see, of course the function x is nothing but this function only, but who is calling it? Who is calling it? You see, x is the global variable. Who is calling it? When we call this just like this, who is calling it? Window, right? So when we enter into this function, this keyword will be window and not this obj. Let me save, and you see it is window. Okay, so I hope you understand about this keyword, which is a part 1, and then in the next video we will see how this keyword will behave when we use the new operator. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel.